Alright, sit. Thank you, Patty. Thank you all for being here today. I'm going to ask the panelists to join me. So Angelica and Russell. Angelica is a survivor leader contracted through the Department of Health and Human Services. She provides supported services to high-risk youth. She is one of the Central Valley consultants with PACT. She sits on advisory boards for the Center of Youth. She is a member of the steering committee of the Coalition Against Human Trafficking in Kern County. She co-facilitates awareness training with Common Spirit and Dignity Health. Angelica believes in recovery. With the collaboration of organizations, victims can turn into victors. So welcome, Angelica.
Thank you for having me.
And then, Russell graduated from the University of Berkeley with 2 degrees, anthropology and Southeast Asian studies. Russell completed his first research project in Cambodia with the factors of resilience for male survivors of commercial sexual exploitation. Russell recently worked with the National Human Trafficking Training and Technical Assistance Center, also known as NITAC. And funny enough, that's where he and I met. We both served on the HTLA. We were one of the first cohorts. Yeah. And so Russell really is an amazing person. So welcome, Russell. So I was told that we have to speak really close to the mic. So I'm gonna, so if we might look like rappers in here. Well, I just want to, again, thank you all for being here and listening and watching that film. We know that film felt heavy, but also brought hope. I'm gonna speak for you guys, but they live beautiful lives today. And that's the hope, is that young people that you all work with eventually get to live that beautiful life that they want and deserve. So, we'll go ahead and jump in. Today, again, we're talking about some difficult conversations, and so we just want you to stay grounded in listening, learning, and reflecting on what action we can take moving forward. So we'll start off with you, Rex. Many youth still love or defend or want access to the same parent who has harmed them. From your lived experience, what do you wish practitioners, people in the room, understood about loyalty and how they can support a young person without forcing them to choose?
That's not an easy question to answer, to be quite honest. Can you all hear me? I think that short of that parent being a physical, life-threatening danger to that child, the last thing you should do is interrupt that relationship. But at the same time, you gotta be prepared that after a visit, after time with that parent, that child is going to backslide a lot. I remember I would go on weekend visits to foster homes to my mom's, and consistently, the social worker would say, well, we've made so much progress, and after every visit, it's like we're starting over. I think that's a fact. I think if they would have prevented me from seeing my mother, it would have been a lot worse though. It would have been a second layer of trauma that would have brought me deeper into a really dark place and lack of trust of of adults that I already had a lack of trust with adults, but it would worsen that lack of trust. And just, as I said in the film, you cannot expect these children to just simply stop loving their parent who's harming them. I didn't see that my mother was harming me. I didn't comprehend it as harm. And I've said it, we all said it a million times in this film. It was just such a normalized space. But even though we were young, we're still human beings. We still had the DNA of generations behind all that informed us on some level that what was going on was wrong. I call it the icky factor. But we push that down and we suppress that icky feeling because there's no room for that, because you don't want to disappoint your parent. I don't know if I really answered the question.
Oh, that's good. Visits are hard.
Visits are
Expect
hard.
that to be a thing.
Exactly. But again, if you try to interrupt that and shame that parent to that child, you're really working against yourself. I think it's something that you just almost don't want to address immediately when you're working with a kid that's been trafficked by a parent. Is you want to focus on other aspects of their life, more positive aspects of their life, and not shame the parent. It's just like, I'll tell you an easy example for most people to understand. If you come from a broken home and you had a parent shaming the father, or the father shaming the mother to the kids, what does that do? It just tears the family up even more. It's the same scenario. The state, the system is now the second parent shaming my mom because of the things that she did. I didn't trust them. I didn't trust the system. And they perpetuated that lack of trust by doing that.
Thank you, Russell. Angelica.
So I wrote some stuff down so I don't lose my train of thought.
So prepared. I didn't even read the questions.
So, when dealing with individuals coming out of human trafficking, at times you think of individuals being kidnapped, groomed, handcuffed, or beaten into submission. For myself, I struggled seeing myself as a victim, even though I felt like it was my obligation or duty to continue a life that was designed for heartache and pain. I felt like I had a secret bond that I was keeping. I didn't want anyone else to know I was being abused or sold. I felt like I was handcuffed to my mother over the years. Over the years, I became angry and numb. I couldn't feel anymore. I did my best to survive. After 18 years, I was able to start on my journey of restoration. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to advocate, mentor some phenomenal individuals that have similar life experiences as myself. It has been my privilege to provide trauma-informed care and teach them their worth in hopes that they would one day see themselves valuable and capable enough to start their own journey. And so for myself is when I'm working with individuals, whether it be youth or adults, to remind myself that because we have the same similar life experiences, that it may take them some time. We may not see the change. Us, the individuals that are here in this room, we may not see the change that happens with certain individuals on your guys' case plan. So just remember that we are there to harvest hope and to just continue to plant seeds. And if it's someone else who comes in and takes our spot, there will be change. We are products of that.
Thank you both. Thank you both. So powerful. So, I'm just gonna, please. Absolutely. Remind yourself, right, that it takes time to change. Harvest that hope. I'm writing this down. Yes. Harvest bit even deeper because that is your parent or your loved one.
That bond also continues on into other relationships as we grow older and adults. I mean, I'm not gonna go into it all, but trust me, I have been in some really messed up relationships because they've been through trauma and I bonded with them over their trauma. They bonded with me over mine, which combined made for a very volatile and unhealthy, toxic relationship. So, I mean, it's something that, you know, certainly I, speaking for myself, still struggle with in, you know, finding partners in life.
So Russ, shame is a major barrier for young people experiencing familial trafficking. From your experience, what helped you move through some shame? Or what do you wish someone had done differently?
Wow. Well, anybody who knows me and the talk and the work that I do, one of the number one things I talk about is the overwhelming, oppressive weight of shame for all of us. It's literally debilitating. It prevents us from growing and evolving emotionally. It prevents us from growing and evolving intellectually, spiritually, in our interpersonal relationships. It prevents us from seeing us as having any value in the world. And, you know, for me, what helped me, let me put there's a difference between the shame that society puts on you through the media and social constructs of social interactions, gender. And again, women, you know, who have been exploited commercially or familially, they feel that shame for sure. But as a man, I'm not allowed to have shame. I'm not allowed to be a victim. And we do not provide spaces, particularly for men, grown men, to address and unpack that shame that we carry with us. You know, there are a lot of spaces for women to find community with other women with shared experience, to commune and support each other through that shame. So I don't want to in any way suggest that the shame that women feel is less than the shame that I feel. It's just that women, because we expect women to be victims, we provide that space for women. We support them in that space. Men are, as I said, we're blamed as victims. We're not allowed to cry. We're not allowed to feel. We're not allowed to connect with our emotions. And that just, those layers and layers just perpetuate that shame, that internal shame. The internal shame that we carry with us is 100 times more oppressive than the shame that we hear in the locker room, on the street, in the media. And so I think that, you know, once you can get a child stabilized and surrounded around a network of healthy support, you can start to address the shame. You cannot bring that conversation out of them. You can't tease it out of them. They have to come to you with that. They have to find that space where they can openly cry about it. It wasn't until I could cry about the shame and not feel shame about crying about the shame that I started to heal from the shame. And I literally, you know, I don't want to go into, like, it'll take too long, but I'm not going to go into all the details of the moment, but I remember the moment that I decided not to feel the shame anymore. And it was literally like that for me. It was just simply, I refused. I was sick and tired of carrying that shame. And I just said no more. I cannot carry the weight of that shame anymore. And it is one of several reasons that prompted me to do the work that I do and to stand up here. And this moment right now, all of you, sorry, all of you are part of my healing from the shame, because it takes bravery to stand up here and say that I was raped by my mother, I was raped as a child, I was raped as a teenager, I was raped in juvenile hall. I sold myself willingly to survive. I did things that disgusted me. And to sit here and say that you can't shame me for that anymore is, trust me, not easy. It's still hard, even today. I have to find fortitude in my friends, people that I know love me and don't judge me and don't shame me. And I think it is the number one reason why men and boys do not disclose, do not talk about it, is that shame.
Thank you, Russell. Angelica?
First of all, I just want to thank you, Russ, for your openness. You always make me so comfortable and confident when I sit next to you.
I love you so much. I love you guys. There's a lot of people in this room I love, by the way.
For many years of my life, I felt like I was walking with a cloud of shame. I felt like everywhere I went, everyone knew that I was in the life. I didn't have the language or understand what exploitation was, so I thought I was just a prostitute or a sex addict. That's why in my advocacy journey, it's so personal for me that I educate others on language and help navigate the individuals I'm mentoring and teaching them that their identity, making sure that they understand that what was done to them is not their fault or their choice, giving them options and navigating a system of hope. So I've been doing this work for almost 13 years now, whether it be just educating myself, consulting, training, mentoring, and every time I come to a conference or a training, whether I've had the same training multiple times, right? I always get something new, and there's always so many new individuals that I'm working with. So it's very, very important for me that I'll be able to take home new resources, because all of you carry so much hope for us, right? For the boots on the ground service providers. And so I just want to thank you guys for bringing all your resources into to one place, because I'm from Kern County, and so you know, I know we're a little ways away, but I know, you know, building relationships with you all will help someone that I'm serving. So again, I just want to thank you guys. And I know it wasn't talking about shame, but
No, that's so good. No, that is really good. And you know, you both talked about how shame was debilitating and how it impacted, you know, your entire being. Many of us in this room, if not everyone, has felt shame at some point. And the reality is, like, we have to find our ways to work through shame. Because shame typically means that it's not our fault in some cases, right? And especially in your guys' case, right? In your
really
life.
into guilt too.
Guilt and shame are like best friends.
Yeah.
So I really love that you guys shared a lot about this, because I think people think that when you exit the life of commercial exploitation or familial trafficking or just any trauma experience, that guilt and shame goes along with it once you exit, but that's not the case. Shame and guilt feels like a heavy jacket that you walk around weighing you down everywhere you go.
Like a straitjacket.
And it takes time to peel off the layers, to take off one of those pieces of shame. Sometimes it comes off easy. Sometimes it takes years. So thank you both. Yeah.
It certainly didn't come off easy. It just was, for me, it was like that moment of like, I had to make a decision. And then it's like I had to just throw it down. But it took me decades, you know? And that's the other thing, that one of the differences statistically between men and boys. I'm always asked, what are the vulnerability differences between men and boys? Nothing. There's not a single vulnerability difference between our genders. It's post-trauma that we differ. How we process our trauma. And most men, and I say men because they were exploited and abused as boys and children, but it is in their 40s, 50s, 60s, if they ever address this trauma. Statistically, women will address it in their mid to late 20s, 30s, and 40s. So they're decades ahead of us. And again, it's all about the network of support that women have that men don't have. Sorry, had to say that.
It's good. Well, I know I want to shift a little bit and talk about self-regulation. So Angelica, I'll turn to you first. Supporting exploited young people can bring up strong emotions in people in this room, people serving young people. What advice do you have for providers on managing their own reactions before, during, or after working with young people?
So I have the opportunity, you guys hear me? Yeah. So I've been contracted with the Department of Human Services. In this contract, I'm able to go into juvenile hall, and that's where I am assigned the youth on my caseload. So when I'm walking in, we're doing the one-on-ones, and they start sharing, you know, some of their deepest, darkest secrets about their childhood, and I can be triggered, right? Anyone can be triggered, but for myself, even when we did the video, we had the opportunity to spend some time together, and the stage and the season of my career, I really don't have to share my story anymore. It's not important. That's not why I'm in the work. So when I was hearing Russ speak, or Jess, or just even watching my other colleagues, you know, flashbacks would come. You know, I was present in the present moment, but there's instances where I'm reliving situations that happened to me. So being able to self-regulate, therapy, learning grounding techniques, learning how to keep myself calm, has been one of the greatest gifts that I've been able to give myself, because I can't be sitting there trying to provide all this inspiration and hope, and I'm just a mess, even though sometimes, and I say sometimes, it is okay to have your guard down when you already have that rapport. But when it's the first time that you're making contact with the individual, if I walk in and I'm a hot mess and I'm like, it's all about me and I'm sharing about my trauma, it's just not, it's not a good look, right? So just being able to practice those things and pull myself together, and be able to debrief with you guys has been something that has taught me and helped me in my professionalism.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of us were triggered at times filming this, because things would come up when we're talking about trauma. And you're right, most of us don't share our stories anymore, right? When we first started doing this work, that's kind of all we did. Right? That's all people would want us to come and do, is share our stories. But after so long, now we have this other expertise, right? You in direct services, providing that direct care, have so much more to offer than just sharing your story. So it's one of the reasons why we did develop this film, is because you can hear it and see it, and we don't have to keep telling you guys. It's really important to hear this information, but it is challenging at times when you're so far removed, and then you have to bring up all of those moments that were really painful? Thank you. Russ, same question.
Can you repeat?
Yes, I can. So supporting young people can bring up emotions, strong emotions for people supporting. So like social workers, law enforcement, service providers. What advice do you have for them, you know, before, during, or after when they're working with young people?
Put the oxygen mask on yourself first, right? There's a reason they do that. So take care of yourself before you walk into a space that is a volatile space. And, you know, I think honestly this is maybe a little candid, but I think if you're doing this work, you better be in therapy, you know? Because you gotta leave your shit at the door, you know? That kid, whether they know it or not, they're really expecting you to be on your game, to be present, to be real with them. And they'll know if you're in there half-assed. They'll know if your trauma is influencing how you're responding to them. I mean, whether they can articulate it or not, different. They'll know viscerally in their heart that you're not truly present. So self-care, if you're not seeing a therapist, at least do things for yourself outside of work that ground you, you know, that give you something that you can be passionate about outside of this. Like this is, in my life personally, and this is, to be quite honest, not a fair question to ask me. I don't do direct services. I don't work with youth. Because we're a hot mess. And I don't have the patience to do what y'all do.
Well, you can talk about like what would have worked.
Oh yeah, no, I'm just,
You know?
and that's the perspective I'm coming from, is what would have worked for me. But yeah, man, what you guys do is amazing, and difficult. But yeah, I think whenever somebody, okay, I've been to a therapist, after a few weeks of seeing the therapist, I'll be like, okay, maybe I'll start to tell this therapist about the real stuff. And their eyes are like,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden they're crying, and I'm consoling my therapist, and I'm all like, fired, done. Nothing on them. I mean, I get it. Like, it's hard shit to hear. It's really hard. And if you are not prepared and grounded to be present with somebody like us, you know, and think about it. I mean, I'm talking as an adult, these experiences happen to me. A child who is still so close to these experiences, whose brain is still neurologically hardwired in a particular way from the trauma, who is just, even in the healthiest situations, brain cognitiveness is not fully developed, and they cannot articulate their feelings. You know, if you are not patient and grounded in your own stress and in your own life, you know, you reschedule, you know, seriously reschedule. So I think that if there were times when I had a therapist, or I had a social worker, or even a cop who clearly was in a good place in their life and really well grounded, and I could tell, man, I could tell when they were making that connection was for real. And I could tell that person truly cared. Doesn't mean I was cooperating, you know, but I could tell they cared. And those seeds are why I'm here today, why I can articulate my feelings now, why I can share my story and not be a hot mess on the floor right now. Because there were people in my life that had it together enough to be present with me, even though I could not be present with them. And I think that that's the best way I can answer that question.
That's great. You both said a lot. You know, I think the therapy piece, right? Whatever that is for you, doesn't mean it has to be talk therapy, right? Like the modalities are endless. Practice that for yourself first. I also heard you guys talking, Angelica, you mentioned debriefing. Yeah, we do a lot of debriefing, right?
Almost
every
after every meeting.
After every meeting, there's a 30-minute debrief session. Have a team of folks that you can go to debrief with. These cases are not just cases. These are young people's lives. These are human beings. So when you're hearing these stories, it's important to talk to people about this stuff. Get it out. Process it.
Have a quiet space in your offices. You know, have a therapy dog there. You know, I mean, everybody. You know, I mean, how many people have come up to me and wanted a pet bug? So this is a stressful, dynamic space, and just petting him makes people feel, oh, okay, you know, I can continue another 20 minutes or so. So things like that help a lot.
Absolutely. And the last thing I'll say is fix your face, is what I heard.
Oh yeah.
My face says it all.
And quickly on that, if that kid's spent any time on the street, they can read you. And it's not even a conscious thing that they're doing. They're not clocking like, oh, they clocked their eye this way, or they looked that way, or they twisted their lip that way. It's not that conscious of us. It's just an intuitiveness that we can clock the most subtle body language because our lives depended on it. Literally, our lives depended on it. And if you have any kind of internal judgments or criticisms, they will come out on your face if you are not very careful about that and conscious of it.
Yeah. It's true. I'm constantly like, fix your face, girl. Fix it.
We didn't want to say anything.
I have I know, you can see him.
I showed a couple.
You're right in the front. No, but it's real. Some of us can show so much emotion, disdain, disgust by our facial expressions. You know, I lift my eyebrows a 10.
I'm a roll the eye person.
Right? We all have our thing. And so it's like literally practicing, like when you hear certain things, to just keep that
Poker face.
composure. I guess poker face. I don't know. But, you know, just being able to control your emotions in the midst of a young person sharing their experience.
And nothing works better when a child is not in control of their emotions than being in the presence of somebody whose emotions are under control. That will cool the situation and ground them as well. So the more they're going out of control, the more you have to be in control, and more you have to be grounded.
So we're going to shift to the next question. Familial trafficking doesn't begin with the child. It often is generations deep. How do you explain the why behind familial trafficking to these folks in the room who may not see the immediate behavior?
I'll let Russ go first.
Yeah, Russ can go first.
This one's actually kind of my lane. So, as I said in the documentary, my mother was horrifically abused by her father. And so, and you know, he died when she was 13, so I never met him. I don't have any history or knowledge of his life other than what my mother told me. But I'm gonna assume that there was abuse in his life as well. And, I mean, just both from my own personal experience and knowledge and, you know, scientific research has shown that this is, especially familial trafficking, especially, it is a generational thing. 99% of the time, it's a generational thing. The parent was abused, the grandparent abused, the grandparent was abused, I mean, it goes back generations. And so, I mean, that's certainly one thing to look at when you, especially if you're investigating whether or not this is something going on in the household, is ask the parent about their history. First of all, they're an adult. Whether they're well-regulated adult is not really the issue. The issue is you can talk to them like adults and just simply ask, can you tell me about your childhood? What's your relationship with your parents like? From that, you'll get some hints, you know. And I mean, we can go in, I guess, is there a point where we talk about red flags and things like that?
You can,
Okay.
you can get into it.
So I think, but that generational piece is definitely a major factor in everyone I know that has disclosed to me about familial trafficking. Every single one. Been doing this 10 years, every single one. So, I mean, it's just a simple fact of what's going on. But I think if you are looking for red flags,
Indicators.
first of all, it's going to happen. Familial trafficking starts younger than any other form of child sexual abuse and exploitation. And they're groomed at a very early age. So if you're talking with small kids like 4, 5, 6 years old, and they are, they seem overly knowledgeable about sexual contact and subject matter, that's a huge indicator. I think it can go both ways. There's the comfort level of talking about it, but then it's going to be masked with a fear of talking about it all at the same time. I know it's kind of anti-intuitive and they contradict each other in a way, but that is a fact. They're going to be very comfortable on some level, and they also may just disclose things without even thinking about it, you know.
So, for me, my mother struggled with her mental illness and an addiction, and I mean, I'm sure her childhood wasn't the greatest, most stable, but I mean, my grandfather was in the Navy, my grandma worked. The culture of just drinking and that was just the way our family was. So I believe the way that I was able to come to terms with my mom exploiting me, abusing me over the years was it just had to be her mind. She wasn't medicated well, and so there would be good days, right? I call them episodes. When I was a young kid, I learned how to make a citizen's arrest and to make sure that she was taken to Mary Kay Shell for 5150. And so when law enforcement was called, my mom's name would automatically be red flag for 5150, and she would be taken to a psych ward for 48 hours and then be released. Why I was never taken from her and put in the system, I'll never know. But I would help me, move on was to just realize that my mom didn't have resources. My mom was also a victim. And so maybe if she would have gotten some help over the years, and she would have been able to self-identify, then she wouldn't have been able to hurt me for so many years. So that's really just a short answer for myself.
So I think one of the things that my mother and I shared was that we were both hypersexualized at a really early age, which normalizes sexual activity. She normalized it to the point that she convinced herself that it was perfectly okay and normal and like human and natural, because all human beings are sexual beings. She just kind of moved that to a point where even small children are sexual beings. And the truth is they're not. Small children are not sexual beings. They're human beings. They have curiosities. But those curiosities are influenced by society and what's around them, right? They are not, in the healthiest space you can raise a child in, a child 5, 6 years old is not sexually curious. Those things just don't start until puberty and teenage. Those hormones get going and then things start getting interesting. But that's normal, and that's when you address those things. But when you're 5 and 6 years old and you are sexually curious, that's not normal. So my mother normalized that in order to deal with her trauma, because she couldn't live with the fact that the things that happened to her the way they did, and by her father. And so she thought she was doing the right thing by exposing me to sex as a small child. She really believed that she was saving me from the trauma that she experienced. That's why the first time that I got molested by the landlord of the house we lived in, and I told her, she's like, well, these things happen, you'll get over it, right? She had to minimize and normalize it, because that's what she had to do for her own sanity, you know?
Thank you. Some powerful things that you guys are sharing. Some hard things to hear. And I'm sure that's the case for many of you, because it's hard for me as a friend and a colleague to hear these things that they've experienced. One of the things that you both mentioned is, I think, looking into the history of the family is really key. Knowing the indicators, and I'll just do a little plug. PACT has an indicator chart that breaks down, and we can share the website for you all to check it out. So pact.org, CFPIC. I'll do it correctly, because there's another PACT, and I don't want you to get them too confused. And they do also anti-trafficking work. But we have an indicator chart that has familial trafficking, labor trafficking by forced criminality, and commercial sexual exploitation of children. So it really just breaks down the different indicators and where they overlap and where they differ. And so it's a really great tool. It's not like all of the things, but it's a great start. And it is public and it is free. There's no charge to use it. I would suggest to download that for any other indicators. But you both shared so much, and I just want to leave opportunity, if you are open, to have questions from the audience, if you're okay, because I think and we only have a few minutes. So if anyone has any questions. Yes?
Yeah, so Russ, when you were growing up, was your dad active in your life?
No. Again, one of the vulnerabilities, right? Oh, so he asked if my father was in my life, and my father died when I was 3. So my mom was left to her own devices. I want to say this about my mom. She was an amazingly good mother until I was about 4.5, 5 years old. So as a baby, and I attribute a huge amount of my resilience to her holding me, bathing me, feeding me, clothing me, loving me as a baby. She could not handle a child. That's when things got weird for her. But as a baby, she was a great mom. And I'm grateful for that time with my mother. But yeah, Dad was not around. And when he was, that first 3 years, you know, he was a criminal and a drug dealer and an alcoholic and, you know, rowdy guy, redneck, cowboy guy that just liked to fight in bars, and he was a violent person. And so I grew up in a violent household. Never took it out on me, but on my mom and the other women in his life, he was very violent. And so that exposure to that violence, at such an early age, yeah, it obviously had a huge impact on later factors in my life growing up.
And you only child, you got siblings?
I am an only child with my mother. My dad has 2 other sons from 2 other women, so I have half brothers. But yeah, we did not grow up together. We had nothing to do with each other until late in life.
Okay. Hello, my name is Patterson Investigate. First I want to say thank you both for sharing. I really enjoyed hearing how you guys navigate shame, whether it's going to different spaces and sharing your guys' stories. I think sharing is healing. And then kind of making a decision to not feel shame and figure out whatever that was for you, or whether you just keep tapping into spaces that kind of helps you evolve. So I really enjoyed those perspectives. I have 1 or 2 questions. You can choose which one to answer. One is from a post-traumatic growth lens. How has, so y'all bear with me as I ask the question, it might sound weird, but from a post-traumatic growth standpoint, how has being traumatized in whatever ways you want to share, or have you shared, has that given you a skill or a superpower that helps you navigate life, whether it's helping others or doing things for yourself? And then the other question was, and it's blinking in my head, so maybe we'll just leave that again.
So, preparing for this event, I've watched the video too many times. Too many times. I've answered the questions again too many times. But I don't realize what it does to me. So, even 13 years out of the life, I get a lot of night terrors. And so as time goes by, I'll notice that my anxiety will be more stable. I won't wake up with night terrors or whatever's happening in my body. But preparing for events like this, over the last 2 weeks, every night I'm waking up. I'm waking my husband up. I brought my husband today. He never gets to travel with me.
Shout out to her husband.
But, I'm in a new season of, he is my safe space. And so I'm like, my body is just like, I'm completely done. And so I needed him to be here with me so that I can share with confidence again. And it's still gonna take some time. The nightmares will go away, but they don't ever, I mean, maybe one day that I won't have them, but for me, it's a lot of night terrors and things like that. When I have to plan to be so open to individuals that I may never see again. So that's what I keep on telling myself, like, I'm never gonna see you guys again. So.
and I love your coping on stage with Anita.
Yeah,
I love that.
It's all flat, but.
It's working. It's working. It's doing its job.
So yeah, either post-traumatic growth, how has the trauma helped you grow? The other question I remembered was, I know with trauma sometimes, because I have trauma, sometimes when you share your story, you heal from the parts that you've shared and not the parts you haven't shared. So have you guys gone through the rest of your story and shared it so you can heal from it? Sometimes you're like, no, I'm healed. And then you'll share to an audience a certain part of your story that you haven't shared before. And next thing you know, like you said, you're a little bit more raw. You're a little bit more tender. Yeah. You need some loving care. I know your husband's gonna do that for you later. Yeah. Come here, baby. So, yeah.
So, the first question, what has my trauma prepared me for and given me back in strength?
Yes.
Well, it's a double-edged sword. Mm-hmm. I know that I can endure so much because I've been through so much. But the problem is that comes with that is that I often find myself having to endure and being able, like unnecessarily enduring things, allowing, abusive people in my life because I'm like, I can handle this.
Gift and a curse.
But should I? Should I handle it? Should I have to handle it? No. But because I've been through so much, I'm capable of doing that. And sometimes that puts me in a position to be taken advantage of emotionally. What was the other part of your question?
The other part was, have you guys healed from parts of your stories that you don't talk about, like those details maybe doesn't fit?
I can honestly say, even recently in my life, I mean, I'm like, I got this, I've dealt with this stuff. I'm okay. And then, bam, out of left field, something just hits me and knocks me on my ass. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm not quite as healed as I thought I was. But that's okay. Unlike previous years, decades before, now I have a really good network of friends around me that support me and love me and, help me through those times. But I think that healing, it's never going to end. It is a lifelong journey. It is a lifelong journey. And the minute this is where humility comes in place. The minute you think you got it, God's going to come down and be like, no, you don't. You still need me. And I love that too at the same time. I mean, it's hard, but I love knowing that God will always remind me how much I need Him.
Thank you, that question was really good. I'll just add really quick. When you grow and you go through life, different things come up at different points in your life. So if you become a mother again, or if you have a child, if you get married, any different kind of transition or season can bring up different things. So I just want to thank you both for your vulnerability, for your honesty, and your bravery, for not only the video, but for sitting up here today, sharing your heart with all of these people. What we heard today was powerful. It was reflections about trauma, loyalty, and unconditional support in community. And so I just want to thank you and honor you both, and I hope that you both take care of yourselves today. And yeah, round of applause for them.
Thank you all so much, and thank you, Josie. Thank you, Russell. Just a couple of quick housekeeping things we're going to do. One last quick break. Next session start at 2:45. Water has been